In the quiet, autumn air of October 2019, a witness near Siloam Springs, Missouri, noticed something unusual deep within the Mark Twain National Forest. It wasn't the movement of wildlife or the changing of leaves, but the sound of saws where there should have been silence. By the time Special Agent Scott arrived at the site, the culprits were gone, leaving behind 8 freshly cut stumps. These weren't just any trees. They were specimens of Juglans nigra, the American Black Walnut. As the stumps bled sap into the cooling air, the agent began a forensic hunt that would push the boundaries of botanical science. At a nearby hardwood sawmill, he discovered a single log that seemed to whisper of its origin. When he pressed the cut end of that log against one of the stumps back in the forest, the surfaces locked together like a jagged jigsaw puzzle. It was a visual match, but in the eyes of federal law, a visual match wasn't enough to secure a conviction. To prove the crime, the government turned to a weapon usually reserved for high-stakes human forensics, DNA profiling. They contacted Richard Crone, a geneticist with the USDA Forest Service who had spent years quietly mapping the genetic code of trees across 32 states. This wasn't just a passion project. It was a national security effort for the forest. When Crone's team ran the samples, the results were staggering. The probability that the log and the stump came from 2 different trees was less than 1 in a million trillion. Faced with the cold certainty of genetic evidence, the poacher pleaded guilty to a felony count of depredation of government property. He was sentenced to 5 months served, 3 years of supervision, and thousands of dollars in restitution. But why would the federal government spend such immense resources tracking a single log? The answer lies in the incredible, almost mythical value of the black walnut. This is a tree so prized for its dark, swirling heartwood and its resilience that a single mature specimen can be worth anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. For the rarest veneer-grade specimens, the price tag can soar above $40,000. In Indiana, another thief once hauled a stolen walnut tree 60 miles just to sell it to a mill, only to be caught by the same forensic geneticists. Across North America, timber poaching is a billion-dollar-a-year shadow industry. And though the black walnut makes up only 2 of our hardwood forest cover, it is the single most targeted species on the continent. We are looking at a living organism that the government protects with the same intensity as a high-security vault. Yet, while the modern world values this tree for its timber and its DNA, our ancestors valued it for something far more profound. They saw it not just as a source of wealth, but as one of the most powerful natural protocols in the botanical world, holding secrets that modern facilities are only now beginning to reconsider. The weight of the black walnut's history is just as heavy as its timber. Long before it was the subject of federal DNA databases, the Romans recognized this tree as something divine. They called it Juglans, a contraction of Jovis glands, which translates to the nut of Jupiter. In the 1st century AD, the Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder meticulously documented the botanical properties of the walnut, seeing it as a symbol of resilience and strength. 17 centuries later, the famed English herbalist Nicholas Culpeper would record how traditional preparations of the tree were used to soothe the skin and support the body's recovery from the venomous bites of snakes and spiders. But while the Europeans respected the walnut, it was the indigenous nations of eastern North America who truly unlocked the secrets of the species we know as the American Black Walnut. To the Cherokee, the Iroquois, and many other nations, this tree was an ancestral, multi-tool source of food, craft, and a deep-rooted botanical protocol. They understood the tree's biology with a precision that predates modern microscopy. Their primary focus was the hull, that thick, neon green casing that protects the nut inside. Historically, these hulls were harvested and brewed into potent decoctions to support digestive wellness and maintain internal balance. This wasn't a casual practice. It was a refined system of knowledge passed down through generations. They utilized these preparations to address a variety of internal imbalances, viewing the walnut as a guardian of the gut and a cleanser of the skin. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of their ancestral knowledge was how they used the tree to harvest food with almost surgical precision. These nations discovered that by crushing the green hulls and introducing them into still streams or ponds, they could temporarily immobilize fish. The compound responsible for this is known as Juglone. In the water, Juglone acts by gently interfering with the enzymes that fish need to process oxygen. Within minutes, the fish would float to the surface, alive and healthy but completely still, allowing them to be gathered by hand. This was not a method of poisoning the water, it was an act of precision. As the water moved and the compound diluted, the remaining fish would simply wake up and swim away, unharmed. The very same chemical logic used to harvest fish was applied to the human body. Traditional folklore suggests that the same compound that momentarily stunned the fish could also be used to support the body's natural ability to flush out unwanted internal guests. This botanical wisdom built a medical tradition that lasted for millennia. Beyond the hulls, every part of the tree served a purpose. The bark provided a permanent, deep brown dye that was so resilient it could stain fabric, baskets, and skin for years. The wood was carved into tools that outlasted their makers, and the nuts provided a critical source of protein and healthy fats during the lean winter months. No other tree on the continent offered this many simultaneous functions. It was more than a plant. It was a cornerstone of survival. To truly understand why this tree has been a staple of ancestral knowledge for thousands of years, one must first look at how it behaves in the wild. The black walnut is a chemical warfare specialist. In the botanical world, it is the undisputed master of a strategy called allelopathy. This is the ability of one organism to suppress or eliminate the growth of its competition through the secretion of toxic chemicals. Most plants practice some form of this to protect their territory, but the black walnut has refined it into an art form. It produces a compound called Juglone not just in its hulls, but in its roots, its leaves, its bark, and even the very soil beneath its canopy. If you have ever planted a garden near a mature walnut tree, you have seen this warfare in action. Gardeners often learn this the hard way, when their prize-winning tomatoes suddenly wilt and collapse within weeks, or when their blueberries and pine trees succumb to a mysterious yellowing. This isn't a disease, it is an eviction. The juglone seeps from the tree's roots into the surrounding earth, entering the root systems of competing plants and disrupting their respiratory enzymes at the cellular level. It effectively suffocates the competition at a molecular level, ensuring that the walnut does not have to share the nutrients or sunlight of its territory. This extreme botanical defense mechanism is the key to understanding the traditional protocols built around the tree. Our ancestors observed this cleansing of the soil and reasoned that a compound potent enough to regulate the forest floor could also be used to regulate the internal environment of the human body. This is where traditional folklore meets modern observation. In various laboratory settings, Juglone has demonstrated a unique ability to support the body's natural defenses against internal imbalances. Studies have observed how this compound interacts with the enzymes that certain microscopic guests, such as protozoa and various types of worms, need for their own metabolic function. By inhibiting these enzymes, the botanical extract effectively starves these unwanted guests of the energy they need to thrive. In livestock and poultry circles, these preparations are still used today as a natural protocol to reduce internal burdens and maintain the health of the herd. Even the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia has historically acknowledged the effectiveness of the walnut against various intestinal imbalances. However, there is a distinct line where the storytelling of history meets the boundaries of modern science. While the laboratory evidence is compelling and the animal studies are promising, the gold standard of modern human trials remains largely empty. This isn't because the tree's chemistry has been disproven, but rather because the path to proving it is blocked by a wall of economics. We're looking at a compound that has been used for millions of years by the tree to defend its life, and for thousands of years by humans to support theirs. Yet it remains on the outskirts of modern facilities. The gap between laboratory promise and the lack of large-scale human clinical trials isn't a failure of the tree's biology. It is a reflection of the modern economic landscape. To understand why a botanical extract as potent as Juglone hasn't been standardized in the conventional system, one must look at the price tag of validation. In today's world, a double-blind, placebo-controlled human trial, the gold standard of modern facility scan, cost tens of millions of dollars. These trials are the gatekeepers of modern pharmacy, designed to ensure safety and efficacy, but they are almost exclusively funded by entities that expect a substantial return on their investment. This is where the black walnut faces an insurmountable hurdle: the patent. You cannot patent a tree that grows for free in a Missouri forest or an Indiana backyard. No corporation is incentivized to spend $50 million proving that a green hull you can pick up off the ground for free works just as effectively as a synthetic protocol they sell for $20 a dose. It is a simple matter of economics. The global market for supporting the body against internal imbalances is worth an estimated $26 billion in 2025 alone. When a handful of major corporations dominate this space, their research agendas are naturally directed towards synthetic compounds that can be owned, branded, and protected. A free tree, no matter how storied its history, simply does not fit that agenda. It is vital to distinguish between what is unproven and what is disproven. In the world of botanical history, unproven often simply means unfunded. The very foundation of the modern conventional system is actually built on the backs of plants just like the black walnut. Aspirin, perhaps the most famous household remedy, was derived from the bark of the willow tree. Morphine owes its existence to the poppy, and quinolone used to support the body against tropical discomforts came from the bark of the cinchona tree. Even as recently as 2015, the Nobel Prize was awarded for the discovery of artemisinin, a vital extract for blood and system wellness that was derived from sweet wormwood, a plant used in traditional protocols for centuries. Each of these success stories followed a specific path. A traditional plant remedy was identified, a research budget was allocated, and the chemistry was refined into a standardized product. The black walnut has not yet received that level of investigation, not because its chemistry is weak, but because the economics are wrong. This leaves the tree in a unique position. It is a powerhouse of natural chemistry that remains firmly in the hands of the people and the folklore of the land. It exists in a space where the knowledge of the pioneer and the wisdom of the indigenous healer are the primary guides, standing in the shadow of a multi-billion-dollar industry that has every reason to look the other way, while the hulls continue to fall every autumn. One of the most enduring modern chapters in the story of the black walnut is the 3-herb protocol that emerged in the late 20th century, drawing heavily on ancestral wisdom. While some of the more expansive claims surrounding this work are still debated within modern facilities, the core combination of botanicals remains a cornerstone of traditional cleansing folklore. This protocol suggests a specific synergy between 3 distinct plants: the green hull of the black walnut, the bitter leaves of wormwood, and the aromatic buds of clove. In traditional practices, this trio was believed to work in harmony to support the body's internal environment. The walnut hulls were historically used to target one phase of an internal imbalance, while wormwood and cloves were added to support the system's ability to address other stages of a cycle. This created a comprehensive, multi-layered botanical approach to wellness that acknowledged the complexity of the natural world. But the true heart of this protocol has always been the precision and timing of the harvest. Herbalists who have worked the land for generations, from the peaks of Appalachia to the rolling hills of the Midwest, know that nature offers a very narrow window of peak potency. This window typically opens in late summer, between July and September, when the hulls are still a vibrant neon green. It is a race against time and oxidation. As the hull matures, falls to the ground, and begins to turn brown, the concentration of the active juglone drops precipitously. Traditional preparations insist that the hulls must be processed while they are fresh and unoxidized, as green hulls can contain 3 to 10 times the potency of those that have darkened. This is why the most respected tinctures carry a deep, greenish-brown hue, a visual signature of a harvest timed to perfection. Working with the black walnut is a tactile, almost ritualistic experience that connects the practitioner to the history of the land. If you attempt this traditional craft at home, you will quickly discover why this tree was the primary source of dye for indigenous nations. The juglone within the hulls is an aggressive pigment. It will stain your skin, your clothing, and your workspaces. A deep, indelible brown-black that defies soap and water. Traditional practitioners often wear heavy gloves, knowing that if their hands turn brown, they have confirmed the potency of their harvest. To create a classic extract, the fresh green hulls are quartered and packed tightly into glass jars, then submerged in a high-proof grain preparation. The jars are then tucked away in a dark, cool corner for 6 to 8 weeks, Shaken